Hey guys, what's going on? It's Sean here bringing you another how-to video. Today we're going to be tackling the installation of my new quad tip ULTER Sport exhaust. This is a European exhaust brand. I ordered this from Italy and I'm really excited. I think this will balance the rear of the ND Miata very well. You can see here's the factory exhaust. It's just got that twin exhaust on the right hand side. I don't like the asymmetrical look. So I'm looking forward to balancing things out with two more exhaust tips in the back. But you can see a nice rolled chrome finish. They look great. I like the black finish on the rest of the metal too, just to give a little more of a low profile look. But let's take a look at what we're gonna need for this process. You're gonna need some penetrating oil. I've got PB Blaster, some rags of course, a 3/8 ratchet with a 14mm and 15mm deep well socket. Then I've got the two nuts that were included with the ULTER Sport exhaust, a Sharpie, a small file, some cutting tools like a cutoff wheel, and a small Dremel tool with a variety of different attachments. I've got a tape measure, some blue painter's tape or masking tape. Light will help out, give us an idea of what we're looking at. And then I did already create a template from this lower bumper cover cutout on the I would call it a lower valance panel here, but this is all one piece of that rear bumper cover. So that's probably the most intimidating part of this process, is making sure we cut out a new port for the second set of exhaust tips. Then I've got a creeper or a pad. Either one will work just fine. It's nice to have when you're working underneath the car. I've got a low profile jack and two jack stands, of course. If you do have access to a lift, that would be great. Unfortunately, take a look at the garage here and no lift. A lot of toys, but no lift. So we will tackle this on the ground, go old school. I have gotten the car in the air using the jack stands, and I just went right where those pinch welds are on the sides. And I didn't jack it up too much. I don't really need a whole lot of clearance, but I definitely want to make sure the rear of the car is held up by jack stands. And of course, chock your wheels. There are wheel chocks out there you can use. Otherwise, a big 2x4 will do it. Again, want to do that on both sides, and certainly do that before you start getting the rear of the car in the air. Again, I just used the middle of the subframe underneath by the diff to get the car in the air. So now I'm going to go and start the disassembly process of the stock exhaust. Okay, so here I am underneath the car. You can see I am where the mid pipe meets the exhaust muffler, the stock exhaust muffler. And what we're gonna do is use our 14mm socket to loosen up these nuts away from this backside. These are welded nuts on the backside of the OEM muffler. So we're gonna use some penetrating oil or PB Blaster, whatever you've got, WD-40 if that's all you have. Something to help loosen those studs up. And you can see I've already got this one most of the way out. So you're gonna basically loosen up, lefty-loosey of course. You're gonna loosen up, and I'll get this one the rest of the way. These springs don't have a lot of tension. It's not like they're gonna go flying, but you definitely wanna retain these for the install of our new exhaust. So you'll do that on both sides. There is another one on the other side, just a 2-stud flange here. So we're going to take those both out, and then we're going to start working on freeing up the exhaust hangers. There's 2 here on the passenger side and then 2 on the driver's side. Okay, I've got the exhaust off, and I just want to give you a better look at how these rubber hangers are fixed onto the exhaust. I actually found that using a little silicone spray could be another easy way to get them loose. Just a little spritz in the back, a little spritz in the front, and that's how I was able to work them off. They do make exhaust hanger tools. I did not have one, but I didn't have too much of a difficulty getting these off. Just take your time and be mindful. This thing doesn't weigh that much, maybe 40 pounds, something like that, maybe not even 40 pounds, but when you're underneath the car, it definitely weighs a lot more. It feels like it's a lot heavier, especially when you're stuck on one side. So basically, to get them off, I did one at a time. So I worked one off on each side. Then I worked one nearly all the way off, just basically barely had it hanging. And then I got the one on the other side, and then I just pushed forward or towards the other side to get it loose, and then the exhaust came out. Very easy. So now I'm gonna go and remove these rubber hangers off of the OEM exhaust and install them on the new ULTER Sport exhaust. Okay, you can see I've got all four of the rubber hangers back onto the metal hangers here for the new ULTER Sport exhaust. And one thing I just wanted to note briefly here is I was checking this out, getting ready to try to get this fitted or just test fitted at first. I did notice that you can see that doesn't go through the hole. You can get it through, but that's ultimately not how we're gonna want to mount this thing. So I'm actually gonna take a small Dremel tool with just a metal sanding bit and just give myself a little bit more room in there so that this can freely slide through. I'll just show you, I got those, both of them cleaned up. You can see the paint is gone, but it's at least functional. So now we can get these through and be able to tighten that nut on the back side flush, and it won't bind up on the stud itself. As you can see, I've now mounted the exhaust just as a test fit. The purpose of this is to get an idea of where exactly I need to line up the additional cutout on the rear bumper cover, that lower panel. Again, you would think that that black panel is a separate piece. It is not, unfortunately. It's a part of the rear bumper cover. So I'm a meticulous guy. I like things to be very, very accurate and precise. So what I've done is just simply marked a really loose and tight area well inside what I know my template will fit. And the reasoning behind that is then I can get this exhaust to be mounted freely, whether it's not binding. You can see I've got this microfiber rag right now to keep pressure off of the chrome finish from that plastic piece. But what I did is basically just did a test fit. I didn't tighten down the flange bolts super tight. I just made sure to get the exhaust hangers hung, and then got those both studs are in. The nuts are hand tight on the back side. I got them just until they started to snug. Anyway, the goal here, again, you can see my just little Sharpie dots there, is a very, very conservative small cut first. That way I can get both tips to be free hanging. And once I've done that, you can see how much space there really is between the cutouts. And so once I have this cut out enough that it's loose, but still not the full amount, I don't want to guess where that template needs to go. So once I get the exhaust hanging, then I can line that template up, make some very fine traces, and then I can work at the meticulous part of cutting that exhaust to have a nice clean final product. Okay, here's a quick look at my first cut, and I did put my template up against it. I've got over an inch on both sides, about an inch and a quarter on both sides, and then about an inch and a half still of free play all the way around. So we should be able to test fit this. Now I can get my template lined up so I'll know exactly where I need to make my final cuts. And once I get those spots marked, then I can pull this exhaust again, make the final cuts, and that should be the last time I'll have to mount it up. Now that I have the exhaust unmounted again, I have gone through and based on marks that I made while the exhaust was mounted, I went and centered the template around where those pipes were, and this is what I have marked out. You can see I used a pencil, easily erasable, and it does blend in. I've got light shining on this now. So I'm going to go ahead and very carefully start the cutting process, and I might actually cut inside the line and then use a sander with my Dremel tool to get it right up to my pencil line all the way around. This is the part that takes time. Here is the final look after getting everything cut and then sanded down. You can see it looks very, very clean. Still need to wipe it down with a rag, but overall the finish of this looks great. So now we'll get the exhaust mounted for hopefully the last time and see if we need to do any additional final adjustments. Otherwise, fingers crossed, we're in good shape and can get this thing wrapped up. Happy to report we are in good shape. Exhaust is mounted. Flange studs are torqued to 30 pound-feet of torque. If you have a torque wrench, that is the spec. But the finish is great overall, nice and centered. Now I can use the subframe, lift up the rear of the car again, remove my jack stands and boards, and we can give this thing a try. Now that everything is mounted and ready to go, I did start the car just to check for leaks by the flange there. Did not feel or hear anything, so that's great. So now I'll do a quick comparison video of a 2,000 RPM rev, 4,000 RPM rev, and 5,000 RPM rev. And then I'll also do a small highway pull from a dig. Nothing that I'm gonna launch the car super hard, but just to show you stock versus the new ULTER Sport quad tip exhaust. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe for more how-to videos, and God bless.